Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today. At Acasis, innovation drives us. Since 2008, we've been creating cutting-edge technology products that make your life easier. With a focus on performance, design, and customer service, we're here to help you work smarter, not harder. Join us on our journey to simplify your world. Visit Acasis.com today. That's ACASIS.com today.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com. Unlock a world of convenience with Mully Box, your one-stop solution for personalized subscription boxes delivered right to your door. From gourmet snacks to unique finds, each box is tailored to your tastes. Experience the joy of surprises. Subscribe today at mullybox.com. That's MULLYBOX.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.
It is the Cam Show. It's Rogue Media Sports Network. Cam Stewart here. Zach Burke there, keeping us on the air. Unintentional rhyme. I don't have any crazy food take for you guys to start the day, although it was another weird dinner at the household here. Okay, we didn't have any debates over whether soup is real or not, or the concept of soup, but rather my girlfriend wanted to make mac and cheese, and she likes the Kraft kind, which I do too, but I also like the Annie's shells and white cheddar. And we did not have 2 boxes of either one. So she made the box of Kraft mac and cheese for herself. We washed out the pot, and then I made a separate mac and cheese for myself. So that's what dinner's like over here for people that are closer to 30 than they are to 20. You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it by the dinner table. Blowout win for the Bruins last night. I do want to get to that later and mainly talk about JT Miller because we talked about Elias Pettersson and why that trade, the JT Miller potential trade, is much easier to pull off for the Bruins. But of course, we're going to be Patriots heavy today. I want to go over some more offensive coordinator candidates because that should be coming in the next couple of days here. And the addition of Ryan Cowden, I kind of talked about it in passing yesterday, but could this be some writing on the wall for some other members of the Patriots organization, some other members of the front office? Because if you're going to do this shakeup, let's do this shakeup. Let's do it. But it might be something that you hear more about in May or so than you do in January. Anyway, all that and more coming up on this episode of The Cam Show, which is live at high noon Eastern time on YouTube every day, and then wherever you get your podcasts. It is a new era for the New England Patriots, that we know. Mike Vrabel is here. He is the head coach. Most people, if not all people, think he needs a new offensive coordinator. But before we get into more of those candidates, it is worth noting that maybe Alex Van Pelt has a shot at this job. Crazier things have happened. I know everyone wants him out after this year, and trust me, I'm not shedding any tears if he gets canned tomorrow. But as I've said on this show before, you do need to give some credit to Alex Van Pelt for how ready Drake May was when he did get the call. He didn't start week 1, obviously, and he looked a little bit lost in his debut in relief in week 3. But in week 6, I want to say, he's out there as the starter, and he throws 3 touchdowns in his first game. So not too shabby. NTS, as we say in the biz, not too shabby. And he came into this season being the biggest project. He was the only one of those 3 quarterbacks that was taken in the top 3 that you were like, oh, man, it's going to be a minute before this kid gets out there. In fact, he was really the only quarterback taken in the first round. I shouldn't say that. He and Michael Penix were the only quarterbacks taken in the first round that you didn't think were going to start on opening day. Bo Nix certainly had a real shot at that. He was the best quarterback on that roster with Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. And J.J. McCarthy was in line to be the starter in Minnesota. And obviously he gets hurt. But the only guys you were saying, well, they need some time are Michael Penix, who's backing up a Pro Bowl quarterback in Kirk Cousins, one they had just signed in free agency, who certainly doesn't look like a Pro Bowler anymore, and Drake May, who was going to be behind either Jacoby Brissett or Bailey Zappi. I don't think they had even signed Brissett at that point. I could be wrong. Behind Bailey Zappi. So that's how that worked out. Of course, Zappi might get a Super Bowl ring this year. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. So all that to say, a long way of saying, Alex Van Pelt had this kid playing as a high-level NFL starter for a rookie anyway. Like he went out there and he threw a couple picks in that first game, but he doesn't really miss a beat. You could talk about the litany of issues that they had on the offensive line and at the skill positions. It was just not an offense conducive to, kind of, for lack of a better term, grooming a young quarterback. But he made the most out of it. He absolutely did. And he did not at any point really look like a fish out of water after that Jets game where he came in relief. Again, a couple picks against Houston, good defense for the Texans. But after that, he did not look like the raw project that we saw coming out of North Carolina. And you got to give some credit to Alex Van Pelt for that. And they're all kind of part of this Cleveland deal, right? Like, Van Pelt obviously comes from Cleveland. He's an Elliott Wolf guy. Vrabel was just in Cleveland last year. There is definitely a case for Alex Van Pelt to be the Patriots OC next year. One guy I'm surprised that has not been mentioned at all is Chad O'Shea, who was the passing game coordinator for the Browns last year. Obviously, longtime Patriots assistant. Did some work on the defensive side of the ball for the Patriots as well, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just not a name that's shown up at all. If it was still Belichick in the seat and he was looking for an OC, that's probably who we'd come and bring in. But this is gone are the days of just only looking at the Belichick cronies. I know there are Patriots fans out there that say that's what this Josh McDaniels move would be if that's who they bring in. And I don't agree. Obviously, McDaniels is a Belichick guy, obviously. But it's not like you're just bringing in the guy for the sake of, hey, he once worked for Bill Belichick and did pretty well. It goes back to the quote that Vrabel had at his press conference, which is interesting versus important. Sure, it's interesting that McDaniels was part of the Belichick tree and always will be. But what's important is he's pretty damn good at being an offensive coordinator. And more specifically, he's pretty damn good at being an offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. And something that I did find interesting as well, someone brought this up recently on one of the radio shows, and I can't remember who it was. I should. But it's that Josh McDaniels took the year off this year, voluntarily, took the year off. I'm sure there were some consultant jobs waiting for Josh McDaniels, but in reality, he got fired as a head coach last year, and it looked like the end of the road for his coaching in the NFL. But what he's done this year, instead of doing consultant work, is he's gone around and traveled to a bunch of colleges. I think USC was a prominent one he went to a couple of times. Ohio State he went to a couple of times. And he's just trying to, by the way, Chip Kelly, obviously at Ohio State, trying to pick up more of, trying to get his fastball back, so to speak, trying to catch up to where the offensive game is going in football and specifically, I guess, the NFL in the 2020s. Because it's not like Josh McDaniels hasn't been malleable before. Like the team that the Patriots had in 2007 that obviously lost in the Super Bowl versus the team they had in 2018 that won the Super Bowl are completely different. Those offenses are insanely different. We all know 07, right? The ultimate West Coast, chuck it deep, Randy Moss, best offense in history. We all know that. And then 2018, Josh McDaniels identifies what the problem is with the team in December, completely changes their offense to become a between the tackles power running team in December, and they go and win the Super Bowl. So don't try to tell me that McDaniels is just, he's a thing of the past. Like he's clearly molded his game after what his team is and what the era is. And by the way, maybe his most impressive job was getting them to 7 wins in 2020, having an offense around Cam Newton's noodle arm that could actually score points in 2020. Josh McDaniels is a big reason for that. Huge reason for that. So this is not a kind of retread hire, but if you do want to go outside the box, you want to say, you know what? I don't want to do the McDaniels thing. I don't want to bring that Belichick expectation back in here. I want to kind of move on from that. Well, then might I introduce you to Nick Caley? That's the guy who you should probably be looking at if you want a bit of what McDaniels does well and then something from around the league, because Nick Caley comes in from the LA Rams, tight ends coach, passing game coordinator this year, and he was a longtime Patriots assistant. He did kind of the traditional Patriots route, playing and coaching at John Carroll, Josh McDaniels' alma mater, Nick Casario's alma mater, coming in through the Patriots, doing a couple of different positional coach jobs for them. On the offensive side of the ball, won some Super Bowls with them, a couple, I think both 51 and 53. He was on that staff. And then eventually kind of gets moved on from. He does not get, this is where the end of Belichick is a bad look. He doesn't get chosen as the offensive coordinator in 2022. Matt Patricia does. And so he's gone. He's out of there. And he goes and works for Sean McVay And he's the passing game coordinator for Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. Another team, by the way, the Rams, just like they were last year, a team that everyone said was dead in the water by October, and here they are in the playoffs. Again, divisional round again. So it's obviously we hear the hot names every year on the offensive side of the ball are guys that have the ties to Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. And this guy's not only got the ties to Sean McVay, but he's also got the ties to Josh McDaniels and to your organization. Makes a lot of sense. Now, the problem with Caley is the same problem that you would have run into with Tommy Rees, who just after our show yesterday did get promoted to the Browns OC, former Browns ball boy, now the OC. So that was probably a tough sell anyway. Same problem you had with Tommy Rees, same problem you would have with Josh McCown, and that is that these guys don't call their own plays. Obviously, Sean McVay calls the plays, and in Minnesota, I guess you could call Belichick disciple. He played for him. Kevin O'Connell calls the plays, and so that's a big thing. I mean, that's what kept Eric Bieniemy out of an offensive coordinator job or a head coaching job for years. Or a different offensive coordinator job, I guess is the way to put that, is because he didn't call his own plays. And so, yeah, it's great that you've got Caley, a guy who knows kind of the Frank Reich system and the Sean McVay system. And to me, I think that's good enough, to be totally honest with you. But the biggest problem with the offensive coordinator this year was the play calling. Seems pretty obvious. Seems like kind of the number one job, right? But here are a couple of guys who have never called the plays before. So I really like Caley's experience and the tie-in to the Patriots, the tie-in to three pretty good offensive minds, if not great offensive minds, Josh McDaniels, Frank Reich, and Sean McVay. I really like Josh McCown's year that he had, albeit, not a lot of coaching experience at the NFL level. I really love the previous experience he's had with Drake May in high school to really develop that kid. But then the cynic in me would say, well, Cam, you just talked about how raw Drake May was coming out of college. Well, his first development guy was Josh McCown. And there's the elephant in the room that they have not called the plays. So of the ones that we've listed so far, of the five guys, right, with Rees, McCown, Caley, Van Pelt, and McDaniels, only two of them have called the plays, and one of them is on your staff right now. I think it would be a good PR move to get rid of Alex Van Pelt. Whether it's the right football move, that depends on who you bring in, right? If you're substituting Van Pelt for Josh McDaniels, I don't think the fan base is up in arms. And to be honest with you, I think the players respect that too. Because while Van Pelt did well with Drake May, there is still the issue of he never really utilized Drake May's legs or his body, even though he's a terrific player, terrific athlete. And he still took 2 hits to the head, even though he wasn't utilizing him in the run game. They couldn't establish any kind of run game at all. And their receivers did not get any better. Like, you went from the worst receiver room in the league to the worst receiver room in the league. There was just zero improvement on that end, and therefore zero improvement really for the offense throughout the season. So you had the most important part down in terms of getting Drake May ready to play, but outside of that, you didn't make anything better, anything. So I think Josh McDaniels can come in here and really make this offense what it needs to be. Because lest we forget, that was a bad Raiders team. Of course, they beat the Patriots in 22, that wild game. But that was a bad Raiders team, and they could run the heck out of the football. Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing that year. So there is still, like, Josh McDaniels, you're not going to have Scarnecchia in there, although that is the quote-unquote Belichick guy, obviously longtime Patriot guy before Belichick. That's the guy I would take in a second, but I don't think he's coming back. You don't need Dante Scarnecchia to fix the run game and the offensive line if you have Josh McDaniels in there, because he's done it before. He is obviously the best running teams that the Patriots have had were with Josh McDaniels as the OC. best since the 80s anyway. We're with Josh McDaniels as the OC. So I talked myself into the Josh McCown thing. I probably prefer Nick Caley, even though that neither of them have called plays. But when I get bogged down into that and the play calling, then I'm just going to be led to Josh McDaniels every time. You know, like, I don't know. I want you guys to tell me what you think down in the comments below, what you think of who the Patriots' next OC should be. Could it just be Alex Van Pelt? Do you just stick with Alex Van Pelt? I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Drop it down in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Really helps out a lot. Most of you watching are not subscribed. We've got fresh new Boston sports content coming out every day, live on YouTube at high noon Eastern time, and then, wherever you get your podcasts, and segments coming out here on YouTube. So we appreciate that. We're rolling on. Now we're going to go from on-field coaches to kind of the backroom staff and what Mike Vrabel is doing and what Mike Vrabel has to do to get this front office up to speed and ready to compete. That's coming up next on The Cam Show.
Ready to bring your vision to life? At Small Rig, every idea, design, and product is inspired by you, the creator. With our industry-first under co-design mode and the Dream Rig free customization project, we unite with global creators to turn big dreams into reality. Whether it's a cage rig or mount, Small Rig's versatile gear is built to elevate your craft. Small Rig, where your creativity meets our innovation. Go to smallrig.com.
Want to turn your passion into profit? With Blogify, creating a blog has never been easier. Build, customize, and grow your site with powerful tools designed for beginners and pros alike. Start sharing your story today and watch your audience grow with Blogify. Download Blogify now in the App Store. Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Stay connected no matter where you are with eSIM-X. Say goodbye to expensive roaming charges and physical SIM cards. With access to over 200 global carriers, we make mobile connectivity seamless and affordable for travelers worldwide. Join the future of communication today at esimx.com. That's ESIMX.com.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
It is Matt Mosley, and it's the Obstructed View Podcast Rogue Media Network. I think they're learning that there's really no wonderful view of me. See, I feel like they think this feed's going to be really wonderful.
There must have been, no BS, like 20 scouts, 15 to 20 NBA scouts there to see him, and he was top 5.
When your old number wasn't working, I went through various channels to track you down. So unfortunately, you can never get away from me. But I'm happy. Man. I'm happy to have you today.
No, thanks for having me. And we always family, no matter where I'm at.
Welcome to a special edition of the Doomsday Podcast. Look at this. We got one of the great golfers in the world, certainly one of the great pass rushers in NFL history.
But he also had a vision for you. And so it was like you had the best of both worlds, right? You had somebody on you early, and then you had somebody who was maybe
more relaxed. What were a couple of your biggest takeaways? The person you referred to that I spoke with, I've spoken to some personnel people and general managers of the league to get some, independent, objective assessments of the players the Cowboys picked, and we'll go through that.
Has the general manager changed at all in the draft room?
Nope, it's been the same since I was here the last time.
Zach, I am rolling through this 94 All-American video you sent me. We were talking about this on the show yesterday. Gijana Carter, Kerry Collins, the late Corey Stringer in here too, and of course Teddy Bruschi. What the hell is Warren Sapp wearing in that video? That is my question. He's got like a gym jersey, like a gym class jersey with tape 76 on it. It's very odd, very odd. Oh, we need more programs like that, brother. We need more of those All-American things. I mean, or at least, you know, someone who has to pee like Forrest Gump. I don't even know who the All-Americans are. We don't have a show like that with Bob Hope. Can we bring back something like that? I want to know who the All-Americans are because I want it in my face on TV. I want them in their full uniforms and pads for some reason. I want them making jokes, and I want them sending shout-outs to Bob Hope and Santa Claus. Let's make college football great again. Am I right, fellas? Am I right, fellas? When is that game? Is that Monday? National championship? Notre Dame, Ohio State. Impressive. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Ohio State. Yes. Ohio State is playing in the national championship game. Ohio State is the alma mater of new Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel. It all links together. And Mike Vrabel has made his first hire, sort of, with the Patriots. Ryan Cowden comes in from the Giants, part of the front office staff there. And he comes in to the Patriots, according to Burt Breer, as the de facto number 2 for Elliott Wolf. Now, Cowden was the director of player personnel for the Titans for 4 years during Mike Vrabel's successful tenure in Nashville. So clearly this is a guy he wants to work with. There's been all kinds of questions all offseason long, or all season long, really, and all offseason last year of whether Elliott Wolf is the guy and where the buck stops and who's making the call in terms of personnel. And here we have a guy that comes in that's worked with Vrabel before, clearly a Vrabel guy, and you're going to tell me he's the de facto number 2 to Elliott Wolf? I doubt it. I really doubt it. The only person he's a de facto number 2 to is Mike Vrabel. Mike Reese went on the radio yesterday, obviously longtime beat writer for the Patriots or ESPN.com, talking about his impressions of what Mike Vrabel, what kind of control Mike Vrabel has in that building. And he says, my impression is he has complete control. Like, he is the one making the personnel decisions. He is the one deciding who is on this roster and who's not. And we all, Elliott Wolf's grading system is just tremendous. I mean, just off the charts good. He's got a grading system. But Mike Vrabel, we kind of knew coming into this thing that if he was going to be the head coach of the Patriots, he was going to have a lot of control, if not all control, over this organization, over the personnel. And then the week he's hired, they're bringing in someone from the Giants who he had worked with for years in the player personnel department to come be the de facto number 2 behind Elliott Wolf. Yeah, I'm not buying it. In fact, I'm selling the crap out of it. I think Elliott Wolf will probably be the GM of the Patriots until a week after the draft. It's one of those weird things in the NFL. I don't love it, but I guess I understand it. I think it's weird when teams have a GM do an entire draft for them and then fire them, but they'll tell you it's because these guys were the ones scouting the whole season. To which I'd say, if you didn't think the scouting model works, then why are you still letting him draft? We can go back and forth all day on this, but the reality is NFL teams do that. They fire their GMs after the draft. So right now, let's wait until this first or second week in May before we decide that Elliott Wolf is the GM for the Patriots for the 2025 season. That said, we will have already gone through the most important part of the year for the GMs. $120 million in cap space, free agency has already started, and you've already drafted the players. So that's why I wouldn't have played around. And I think they are going to play with their food a little bit. and just see where Elliott Wolf's at, even though this is a crucial offseason for this franchise with the pick that you have, the work that needs to be done with this roster, and the money that you have to spend. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it's Mike Vrabel that's really making those decisions up through the NFL draft. Because I'll go back to what Teddy Bruschi said when the news first broke. He was on NFL Sunday Countdown with ESPN. He probably already knew that this was going to happen. He's very close with Mike Vrabel. And he was basically saying that, Vrabel's going to tell these people in the front office how it is, and that there are some people that are going to need to take a step back, is what he said. Some people in that front office are going to need to take a step back because Mike Vrabel knows more than they do and knows how to run a franchise better than they do and knows how this thing works in the NFL. And it's not just, because he was a player. That helps, but that's not the reason. The reason is because he's been a damn successful head coach before. In college, he's coached in college and in the pros, positions, coordinator, head coach. Like, he's done it all, and he knows how an organization is meant to run. And I was thinking about this about Mike Vrabel yesterday. So many people are talking about how, his time in Tennessee was overblown, and the success, I should say, was overblown, and it was bad at the end, and he didn't make it to a Super Bowl. And I think about that, and I'm like, how many times can we go up and down the list of NFL coaches who get it right the second time around? The first time, they don't have a lot of control. They kind of are working out their mistakes. And then the second job they get, it's a lot better. Because I can think of a good couple. Of course, there are some that go the other way. Like Raheem Morris hasn't been good at either of his jobs, either of his head coaching jobs. And certainly, George Seifert coached his way out of the Hall of Fame with his second coaching job. And Mike Holmgren got Seattle to a Super Bowl. It was a good second job, but not as good as the Packers. But then again, you can look at some of these other ones, like, I don't know, Pete Carroll. Okay with the Patriots, but it was going south in a hurry at the end. Pretty good second NFL job, I would say. Or how about the guy that succeeded him in New England? Fellow by the name of Bill Belichick. Decent in Cleveland the first time around. Obviously, the wheels fall off because of what's going on in that franchise. But has them winning a playoff game in 93, 94, whatever it was, 94, and has them beating the Patriots in the playoffs. And then the second time around as head coach, I think it was significantly better. If I had to say, I would say it was pretty good. So there are all over the place. Don Shula was pretty successful with the Colts, and then he was even more successful with the Dolphins. It happens all the time where these guys, typically their first job is not their best job. And so Vrabel has a pretty good go around the first time, and now he gets a shot to have more control, have the quarterback already in place, have the cap space. I think this really tends to be a pretty good writing on the wall for Mike Vrabel. I really do. And so many people are quick to dismiss it. And I'm like, if you just look through the annals of NFL history, you don't even have to look that far. You don't have to look back that far to see where guys have succeeded. Obviously this next guy was on an interim basis, but Dan Campbell was a mess in Miami. Look at him now. Pretty good. I think Miami would take him. They'd take him back in a heartbeat, I would say. And there's a couple of those per every. Mike McCarthy, who was good in the first stop, won a Super Bowl, and then was, okay in the second stop, and it petered out with Dallas. Wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. I don't think he was the biggest issue. There were some other issues there with Dallas. But people are so quick to dismiss Mike Vrabel almost because he's been a successful head coach before. But they'll say, he wasn't a Super Bowl winner. He didn't get them to a Super Bowl. That's a high bar for job number one. And now, because by the way, Bill Belichick didn't get the Browns to a Super Bowl in his first stop. Pete Carroll took the Patriots to the playoffs once. He won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. Maybe Nick Saban comes out of retirement as a good second job in the NFL as a head coach. But it happens all the time. Andy Reid, here's a good example. Andy Reid was pretty successful with Philadelphia, more successful than Vrabel was in Tennessee, for sure. Got to a Super Bowl, got to a bunch of NFC championships, but he was a choke artist. Couldn't win the big games, lost a couple NFC championship games at home, terrible clock management. That was a knock on him all the time, specifically in that Super Bowl against the Patriots. Couldn't manage the clock. And so Kansas City takes a shot on the guy, saying, well, he won 2/3 of his games here. It was pretty good. He had Donovan McNabb at a Super Bowl. And I would say it's gone quite well for Andy Reid in the second go-around as a head coach with Kansas City. Am I saying Mike Vrabel's going to win 3 Super Bowls? Yes. But also, it's not wild to think that he is going to have a successful stint as the second time as the head coach. In fact, going back, it's more even than you think of those guys who aren't as successful the second time around as the guys who get more successful. For every Mike Ditka with the Saints, there's an Andy Reid with the Chiefs. Maybe not that successful, but you know what I mean. Guys who do take that next step with their second head coaching jobs. So I think it's asinine. I think it's silly to just dismiss Mike Vrabel being good this time around because he's a retread, one job, pretty good at it. There are some cynical Patriots fans out there. And again, if you want to say you don't like him because of the lack of aggressiveness and going for it on fourth down and kind of the conservatism he plays with, that's okay. Sure. Fine. I think that's a reasonable beef for a fan. I think that changes with whatever quarterback you have. I think that is the biggest factor in whether you're going for it on fourth down just about every time. I mean, first is distance. Second is who I have taking the football. And then there are people who will knock him for saying, he runs the ball too much. Drake May is your quarterback of the future. You don't want to get a guy coming in here who's run heavy. Look how much they ran the ball in Tennessee. Yeah, you know why? Derrick Henry was their running back, and Ryan Tannehill was their quarterback. Wouldn't you run the friggin' football? I would. Baltimore has the MVP at quarterback. They run the shit out of the football. You know why? Because they have Derrick Henry as their running back. So this is the misnomer here that he's a run-first football head coach. No, he's a put the ball in the hands of my best players first head coach, which is what the Patriots desperately need here. So he's already starting to bring in his personnel guys. Don't be surprised if Vrabel has complete control over who is making this roster and who is getting the playing time. And I think it's good. It's the best case for the Patriots because, look, and I've said this several times, they're not going to be a very good football team this next year. They should improve, but they're not going to be a playoff team this year. They're going to be below 500 again. And it could be ugly in the first part of the season. But where I trust Mike Vrabel is that there's going to be accountability on this team, and therefore there's going to be some goddamn pride on this team. And they're going to go out there and improve over the course of the season. They're going to be less stupid, and they're going to improve over the course of this season. They're going to get coached. They're going to be held accountable, and there's not going to be this entitlement on the team that from every angle it seems there is a great sense of in that locker room right now, or there was in 2024. I'll go back to that Taylor Lewan video of him saying, Vrabel is going to work your ass into the ground. You better know every situation. You better know everyone's job on everyone's play. To me, that is Belichick. And the way he's going to hold people accountable is Belichick. The way he's going to fire you up is Parcells. And the way that he's won at the NFL level is a little bit of both in their early years. Of course, Parcells won 2 Super Bowls and Belichick won 6. He hasn't done that yet. But if you look at the early years of those guys, their successes are pretty similar. So I'm in on the Mike Vrabel hire. And I'm in on Mike Vrabel having as much control over the personnel, over the football team, over the franchise as possible. Because I think that's how you win in this league. Andy Reid's got a GM, but he's got a hell of a lot of say in that personnel. I don't think Sherrod Mayo did, and I think there are coaches around the league who don't, and they're not successful. I mean, you look at the other ones who are successful, Reid, McVay, Shanahan, like those guys have a big say in buying the groceries. If you're serious about getting back into contention and believing that Mike Vrabel is your guy and having that conviction, it's time to let him start shopping for some of the groceries. Win of the year once again for the Bruins last night. Win of the year, volume 7 or 8. We'll revisit what I was saying about them yesterday and how that might change today and tomorrow. And also who they should be bringing in. Is this JT Miller trade for real? That's coming up next on The Cam Show.
Unlock your full potential with Onnit, your go-to for premium supplements, fitness gear, and wellness essentials. Whether you're training hard, recovering faster, or just looking to feel your best, Onnit has the tools you need to perform at your peak. Visit Onnit, that's ONNIT.com, and elevate your mind, body, and spirit today. Join the Daily High Club, the premier destination for glass water pipes, vaporizers, and accessories. Since 2015, we've sold over 1 million quality products and teamed up with legends like Snoop Dogg and Tommy Chong. Ready to elevate your smoking game? Visit dailyhighclub.com for our El Primo subscription box or shop unique pieces today. Get paid faster with Bill, the easiest way to send, receive, and manage your payments. No more delays, no more hassle. Whether you're a freelancer or a business, Bill makes payments seamless and secure, simple, fast, and reliable. Sign up today at Bill.com. Cleanse your body of accumulated toxins and embark on your wellness journey at your own pace. At Global Healing, we provide premium supplements to help your body heal naturally. Combine that with OrganicHemp.com's top quality CBD for ultimate balance. Start your healing journey today at GlobalHealing.com and OrganicHemp.com.
Relax with Hemp Delicious. Organically grown hemp, massively blended with delicious organic herbs, responsibly sourced for their holistic benefits. Each sip offers calming, antioxidant-rich wellness. Brewed just for you. Sip the calm with Hemp Delicious. Find your blend at hempdelicious.com.
Get ready for epic savings at Best Buy. Right now, you can save up to $700 on select Alienware and Dell gaming products. Perfect for leveling up your gaming experience. Plus, grab the latest Android Google Pixel at an unbeatable price. Don't miss these incredible deals. Shop now at BestBuy.com and upgrade your tech today.
We've got all these transfer portal stats and what Dion did and what Fritz has done. I mean, that's the deal, man. That's the game that's being played nowadays.
Maybe a little bit unknown at quarterback. I mean, unknown to the rest of the world, but, he dove into the portal and got a guy who is super, super athletic.
South Dakota State's really good. Give us a little bit of breakdown about what they can do and what Oklahoma State needs to be worried about.
Look at that form right there. I need to say nothing else about this because I found one.
It is the Cam Show. It's Rogue Media Sports Network. We take you into the Bruins portion of things. And yesterday, I was pretty critical of them. I was laughing at their lines that they were putting out there after putting Mark Kastelik and Charlie McAvoy on the IR, and they were putting Morgan Geekie on the first line again with Pavel Zacha. And oh my God, it was just terrible. Just terrible. And then they go into a big time game last night against Tampa, one of those big time divisional games, especially when Tampa's got 5 games in hand on you. And they just knocked the shit out of them. Like, where did that come from? Midway through the game, it's 4-0. Like, I don't know where the heck this came from. First off, having Matt Poitras up plays instant dividends. That first goal where he's pouncing on a loose puck, leading a 2-on-1 with speed, and makes the perfect pass over there. Like, I've watched every friggin' Bruins game this year. I don't know that they have a guy on the roster that could have done that before Poitras came up. Because we've seen it so many times. How many times I come on here and say they can't take advantage of odd man rushes because they don't have speed and they can't pass the friggin' puck. Matt Poitras is playing like he's playing the Bridgeport Islanders out there. Instant dividends, instant offense. I was one of those guys who were like, okay, I'm okay with Poitras going to Providence, getting some more development. But in reality, with the way the Bruins are at right now and the way he looked last night, he probably should have been up a couple weeks ago, for being totally honest. But still, there are plenty of holes in this team. You didn't really see them last night. In fact, that was one of the best performances you saw from the Bruins all year. It wasn't a full 60. They kind of took 15, 20 minutes off in the middle there in the second and third period. It gets to 4-2. But they did something I don't think I've ever seen in an NHL game. They scored 2 empty net goals from their own defensive zone. And everyone was like, and they were shorthanded. That makes it a little bit easier because you can just throw it down the other end of the ice, and not have to worry about icing. But yes, Tampa pulled their goalie and then went on a power play. So this was the most impressive thing about the Bruins last night was it's 4-2. Okay. They get it to, it's just like 4 minutes left, 3.5 minutes left. It's 4-2. And they draw a penalty. They go to the power play and you're like, here we go. Like now they get plenty of time to score a power play goal, get right back in this thing, go 6-on-5 and probably score again. Because that's what the Bruins do. And instead the Bruins killed them off right away. That's what the great teams do. And I'm not saying the Bruins are a great team, but it is a shift in mentality, right? Like that's the mentality that the really good teams have is once that net is empty on the other end, it's not survive and try desperately to clear the zone the way the Bruins did against Florida on Saturday and gave up the game-tying goal. But rather they see that net is empty and they're like, all right, let's put this game to bed right now. The net's empty. There's no excuse. And that's what the Bruins did last night. Andrew Peeke scores his first Bruins goal. He scores it basically 200 feet, throwing it into the empty net after a 1 face-off. I mean, that might be the most amazing part, the fact that the Bruins won a defensive zone face-off. And then Pavel Zacha scores from their own blue line. And the game is done. It's put to bed. And Tampa didn't have Braden Point last night. I'm surprised that the team announced that they didn't have him because he was he missed a team meeting. But hey, I like the honesty. I like the transparency. Coop's all about that. And you know what? You had a team that didn't have their leading goal scorer, and you took advantage of it. And Kucherov was like crying at the end of the game. Man, you took advantage of it, and you shut them down. Hedman had a bad game. I think he went to the box once. He should have went to the box a couple of times. Did assist on a goal from Geekie's brother. But they absolutely took advantage of it, and they made Vasilevsky look pedestrian. I think they had 3 goals in the first 7 shots, which, of course, dipped into the second period. I think that was 21.5 minutes into the game. But it was an onslaught last night. It looked really good. They scored a power play goal, too, I believe. Pastrnak continues to be hot. And so maybe you think after a 6-2 convincing win over Tampa and clinging on to a playoff spot, maybe as the Bruins you think, hey, we could use one more guy here. We could use one more alpha here, and we're off to the races. And that's where Vancouver comes in again. Elias Pettersson, JT Miller. I've already done my spiel on Elias Pettersson. If you want to see it, I'll put it in the description. I love Elias Pettersson. I have since the day he entered the league. Notably, I have not gotten his jersey because I don't like the Canucks at all. But I love this kid. I think he's a tremendous, tremendous two-way forward, awesome playmaker, bullet of a shot. And I know he's not having the greatest year of his career this year, but there's still so much upside with that kid at 26. He's entering his prime right now. That's going to be a tough one for the Bruins to pull off. But I don't see any excuse as to why you don't try. Like, to me, Pettersson can be a top 10 player in the league. I really think so. A top 10 forward in the league anyway. And he's entering into his prime. It's a big cap hit. What is it, like 11.5 on the cap hit? It's pretty big, but still 11.6. Yep, 11.6. But if that opportunity is there, I don't mind wasting whatever little draft capital you have left and whatever little prospect pool you have left to bring in someone like Elias Pettersson. I think he's that good a player personally, and I think you can work around that. The other Vancouver Canuck that's on the block is JT Miller. And of course, this comes from the beef between Pettersson and Miller. Apparently much more so than the made-up beef between Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak for the Bruins. This is real enough that Vancouver is taking calls on both of them. And weirdly, almost kind of starting over, it feels like, if they get rid of both of them. Which I would think would be a mistake. But anyway, that's not for me to say. So Elias Pettersson, while he is the better of the two, in my opinion, and certainly the one you would rather have, it's probably a tough move for the Bruins to make. So then let's look at JT Miller, a guy who is at the forefront of this beef because he's had beef with other teammates before. And there is a cautionary tale that comes with JT Miller. But when you look at the numbers, it's tough not to pick up that phone if you're Don Sweeney. This guy was a 100-point guy last year, okay? And he is a number one center. That's what's so crazy about Vancouver. They have 2 number one centers. And if you ask Don Sweeney, last year, they had 3 number one centers because they had Elias Lindholm too. If you ask anyone else in the league, they would say, no, they only have 2 number one centers. But if you ask Don Sweeney, he would tell you, no, they've got 3. This Elias Lindholm guy is our center number 1. Wrong, mistake, incorrect. And now you're shopping for another Canucks center, which is kind of funny. But JT Miller absolutely is that number 1 guy. 100 points last year. Not too shabby in the other years as well in Vancouver, where his game is really kind of taking it up to the next level. 103 points last year, 82 the year before, 99 the year before that. He was a minus player in 22-23, a minus player this year. And he's got 29 points in 32 games. So not quite on the 100 points pace, right? More closer to the 80-point pace. But if you look at the Bruins, there's one guy on the roster who's going to hit 80 points this year, maybe. Pastrnak probably hits it. I think he's at 48 through 46 games. He's going to hit that. But if you're looking at this and saying, well, if I can't get Elias Pettersson, I don't want to get JT Miller. The fact is, you don't have anyone close to JT Miller. At the center position, no way. And really only have one forward close to that production. It's David Pastrnak. That's it. And imagine the production you would get if you had someone who could provide for David Pastrnak, because that's the whole point of this here. And, I mean, Miller's still, close to a power forward as you're going to get in the league these days. He gets Selke votes often, not at the top of it, not finishing in the top 10, but he did finish in the top 15 last year and got Hart Trophy votes last year, and has gotten those votes 3 times in his time in Vancouver, which dates back to 2019. He's older than Pettersson, obviously. Pettersson at 26, JT Miller at 32, or turning 32 this season. That's where you got to be wary of. And I think he's signed through 2029, 2030 maybe. So he's going up to age 36, 37 on that deal. Those back few years, those back 9, so to speak, will be tough. But it certainly looks like JT Miller is a guy who can produce for this year and the next couple years versus what we've seen this year and the last few years. It doesn't look like he's really slowing down anytime soon. I think you would have to wonder about what the production is going to be like when he doesn't have some of the wingers that that Vancouver has. He doesn't have Horvat or Brock Besser or some of these guys he's played with in the past and gotten him to 100 points. But with Pastrnak out there, I think that's going to help a lot, because as good as those guys are, they're not David Pastrnak in terms of goal scoring. So if Pastrnak gets hurt or JT Miller goes to another line, then you got an issue. In terms of the actual trade, this is where it becomes easier for the Bruins, because it's a much different salary to match. $8 million is not chump change, but it's not 11.6 like Pettersson. And when you're up against the cap like the Bruins are, and I believe the Canucks are as well, you've got to match that. So that's where these names come in, like Hampus Lindholm, Pavel Zacha, Charlie Coyle. I think Lindholm is like 6.5. Zacha is about 4.5. Coyle's 5.5 per year. Frederick's a little bit less, but he's going to be a free agent. Like, if you're asking me and most Bruins fans, and I would say most GMs around the league, like, send them away tomorrow if that's what it's going to cost. And it will cost something like a draft pick and maybe a Matt Patra. But as I said about Pettersson with Patra, Patra's a good player. I like him. I think he's going to be a decent player in this league. I really do. Middle six center, sure. JT Miller's a number one center. He's been an 80-point guy basically the last 4 or 5 seasons with Vancouver as his game has turned up. And I don't know when Matt Patra is going to be an 80-point guy, if he's going to be an 80-point guy. That's probably a stretch. Okay, JT Miller already is one. So it's going to cost some capital in terms of either a high-round draft pick or a Matt Patra type. And then some of these guys, some of these expendable middle 6 to bottom 6 guys on your roster. And the other thing I really like about JT Miller is he wins faceoffs. He wins 58% of his faceoffs, which is better than anyone on the Bruins right now. I think it's one of their biggest issues. They don't win faceoffs. Now, there are some guys that are close. In fact, the closest is Johnny Beecher, who's not taking a lot of faceoffs. Elias Lindholm, your number one center, is 5 percentage points behind him. That's a lot. That's a lot behind. Charlie Coyle wins 50% of his faceoffs. That's probably your next guy out there. So if nothing else, JT Miller is by far the best faceoff guy of your top end centers, of guys who should be taking a lot of faceoffs. So he fixes a lot of things for the Bruins. You want to have that oomph that Cam Neely and Don Sweeney love. Okay, here's a guy who can bring you that and actually score points, actually produce offense for you. Unlike Elias Lindholm, who doesn't really give you either of those things. Nikita Zadorov doesn't obviously give you offense, but I'm going to give Zadorov some credit. He's been excellent for them the last month or so. Still takes some stupid penalties, but he's a plus player for this team right now. That's way minus in the goal differential as a team. Nikita Zadorov, his skating has been better. He's clearing out the net a little bit better than he was, and he's a plus player. So there you go. You didn't, I wouldn't say you hit on that deal yet, but you're at least getting something of what you bargained for. JT Miller, that's the kind of player you were targeting in the offseason. You just got a worse version, a way worse version than Elias Lindholm. So yeah, if it's up to me, I'm Pettersson all day long. I don't care that he doesn't check. I really couldn't give a shit less. He does everything well. Everything. Offensive zone, defensive zone, face-offs, passing, shot. He's an incredible player. And this is not a downfall for him. This is a pause in production, I would say. But if you're going to go and say JT Miller's the guy from a on-ice standpoint, okay, that's something the Bruins could really use. I think the off-ice thing does need to be addressed. There's been some issues with JT Miller, minor issues everywhere he's been, but specifically in Vancouver, it's not just Elias Pettersson that he's had a run-in with. He's had a couple of teammates. In fact, some of his teammates have gone on podcasts and been like, yeah, I love JT, but we had to tell him to take it easy on these kids. He was freaking out. He's screaming at his goalie when he's not emptying the net at the right time. And it's there. JT Miller seems to be the constant here. And I think if you ask Vancouver which one they would rather trade, it's going to be JT Miller in a second. So maybe that helps in terms of the return and what you have to send to Vancouver. Maybe that you could back him into a corner a little bit. But the Bruins are not going to be the only team after him. The Rangers are going to want a reunion. They need all the same things the Bruins need. And Chicago, I think, is going to be a team that's really pushing for them. Like, they've been looking for veteran guys, savvy guys who have been there and done that to help with this Connor Bedard development. And here's a guy who actually produces. He's obviously not going to play on a line with Bedard because Bedard's a center. But here's a guy who can make the second line much better for Chicago and take some of the stress off Connor Bedard, at least on an on-ice sense. But also, if we're talking about the way he works with young players, maybe that's not the best thing for a 19-year-old, 20-year-old Connor Bedard. Anyway, I would be stunned if the Bruins don't make a push for either one of these two guys. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything if you don't bring them in the door. But from an on-ice standpoint, I'd be fine with JT Miller. Better than any center you got right now. I think better than a long shot from any center that you've got right now. Again, he's on a 80-point pace here. Elias Lindholm is on basically a 40-point pace. That's your number one center. So let's not overthink this. Let's just look at that. Oh, and by the way, 16 power play points this year. David Pastrnak is the Bruins leader in power play points with 10. It's where they struggle the most. And he brings the things that you struggle at the most, the face-offs, production, offensive production from your center, production on the power play. JT Miller blows everyone away on the Bruins roster right now. So as much as I want Pettersson, JT Miller, while the poor man's Elias Pettersson in this scenario and a lot older, is much better than anything the Bruins have at any of those. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Should the Bruins make this kind of blockbuster trade? Should it be Pettersson? Should it be Miller? Do you have concerns about Miller? Please let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. Most of you watching are not subscribed. We want to change that because we're bringing you fresh Boston sports content every weekday. We're live on YouTube at high noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. Central. And then after that, wherever you get your podcast. So we'll see you tomorrow on The Cam Show.
Transform your workspace with Hanomi Ergonomics. From adjustable chairs to standing desks, we provide solutions for comfort and productivity, whether at home or in the office. Improve your posture, reduce strain, and work smarter. Visit us at hanomi.co today. That's HINOMI.co today. Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internex. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. Enjoy seamless, fast storage without compromising security. Visit Internex.com today and take control of your digital life. That's INTERNXT.com today. Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com. Tusains, we understand that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world. That's why our mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone, anywhere. Committed to excellence, we adopt a user-centric approach guided by ergonomics and medical science. With a team of seasoned professionals in R&D, design, and manufacturing, we prioritize quality across our entire product line. Visit Tusains.com today and start your journey to better health. That's TOUSAINS.com.